Okay, so the carpentry work is done, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the stain that you possibly could have been using. Now again, this is a part where you guys can come up with anything you want, but I do recommend this Minwax Poly Shades. And what I used for this one is an espresso mix. The good news is that it's a one-time application. So when I pan back here, you'll see it on the actual red oak that I used. This was one application. I puttied and sanded the corners. And again, you can read the instructions on here and steel wool this and put as many coats on as you want, or use any other technique that you want. The bottom line is I used this Minwax Poly Shades, and it turned out really nice with this espresso. Now we're going to talk about installing the hose. After that's all done, I'll be flying out to meet with you guys and we'll get the painting completed. So here's what you're going to need for this step. I've shown you some fire hose that you guys have already collected from your department. I just have a 50-foot stick of 2.5. Again, we've got the drill gun, caulking gun with liquid nails, and I use the heavy-duty liquid nail brand or any other similar product. And then I've also got various types of screws, and I'll talk about each one of those as I go to install them. But what is important is that this has a nice flat head on it, and that really holds that flag down to the substrate. And then of course you'll need a drywall knife just to cut some slits in here to get the screw heads through as we mount it on. It's a real easy installation, and I'll just walk you through the whole thing and we'll get the whole flag laid in here. And then again, I'll come out and paint it. So the three kinds of screws that we're going to use are lath screws. Again, they have a nice wide head on them. I've got 3 boxes here of 9/16, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches. And I'll show you on our little journey here where you use which screws. So the scope of the work here is we're going to screw and glue this hose down. Now this first one's a little tricky because it's kind of hard to get that screw down in there. So here's a little bit of a hack that I put together, which you all know. Just grab a little blue tape, little painter's tape, and you can actually kind of secure that first screw on there so that it just stays on there. And then that way, I'm going to look right down that hose and I'm just going to kind of get a ballpark of it so that it sits in this area. And then as I munch it, I'm going to go right down and get it started. And now, if you look down in that pipe, you can see that our first screw is set. So now after you have the first screw holding this down, we're going to start applying the glue. But prior to doing that, come out a couple feet. You're going to want to just bow this hose right beyond the seam, and you're going to make a little incision in here. And again, just watch out for your fingers and use really sharp blades so that you're not messing around. Now with that cut, you're able to secure this hose down when you glue. So as you go down the hose, you can see I cut basically in thirds. A cut here and a cut here. You can just guesstimate that. And you're going to do that on each row. And the reason is you're going to put a screw in there to secure this down. Starting in the beginning, we're just going to lay down a nice big copious bead of liquid nail. Run that all the way to the very end of the hose to about, I'd say, 3 inches off the back there. So let's go ahead and lay it in. And remember, because all of this is going to get covered, don't be too freaked out if you get a little glue here and there. Ooh, look out. And here towards the end, we'll do a little something in a second. Alright, so I'm coming up to the front and I'm just pressing it down and getting it going. Alright, now this will lift up a little bit too as it's drying. Don't worry about that. So you want to take the 9/16 screw, and you remember those cuts in here? Go ahead and find them. And as you get through this thing, all you want to do is pin down the top of that where you cut through. So you put that screw in at an angle, get your drill gun in here and then straighten it up, and there you go. Press it down. You may get some overlap here of glue. Again, don't worry about it. you're going to go to the second cut, find it. Miraculously, it's right there. Hold that screw, get it straight up and down, and in you go. And that's just a little extra reassurance of what you got going on here. Okay? Now when we get to the end, I'm going to show you how to fold this thing and keep marching on. Once you get to the end, you're going to do a series of 90-degree folds. Real simple again. But so if you think about this coming down to the end, you just want to press this in to give it kind of a nice fold right there. And as you run this along, you know it's at a 90 degree when you look at it like this. Don't worry about any of the OSB that's showing through. That's all going to get covered with primer paint. Okay, so what you want to do here is you want to put just a touch of glue underneath this corner. Alright, and again, don't worry if it comes up, because it's all going to get hidden later. Carhartts are a wonderful tool. Okay, so as you can see, I'm mashing that down. Now sometimes you can take your hand, or you can actually just grab a rubber mallet and give yourself a really nice corner on that. Now you're going to lift that up and you're going to go through both of these pieces. So make sure when you screw these in, kind of get a visual right here, so that that screw head is hidden by the actual fold over. So these are the 1-inch lath screws. Straight up and down. Right? And then I just visualize another one. And I'm going to put 2 on this one. Alright, so it's secured to the end now. Now, same deal. Kick out your hose, give yourself plenty of room, because on my return journey, now I'm going to flip back into it the way I was. And again, you can see already I'm going to put 2 more screws right here underneath and hide them again, and then off we're running with this strip all the way down to the other end. You're going to do this back and forth until you get all of the bottom stripes done. And there are 6 stripes that you're going to go back and forth for the bottom of the flag. Alright, so let's go ahead and get all those 6 stripes done. Every single corner is done the exact same way. So once you do your return fold, there's one final cut that you need to make in the hose line. You see how it comes down over here? It's going to have a tendency to come up. So just right underneath there, about 1 inch or so out, make another cut right here and screw that one down, and then run with it doing your thirds again. Well, as you can see, if you need to jump into the field a little bit, don't be afraid to jump up here. I would suggest you have plenty of sawhorses underneath though. If it's supported properly, or even on the ground, you can climb right inside of here. So now that I've taken you through the bottom half of the flag, I want to take you through a couple of the transition folds so that we can complete the rest of the flag. As you can see, I've already finished the entire flag itself. So what I want to do is come back to a point that you remember, and then walk you through the entire rest of the flag. So when we left off, we had this fold right here. We had the 6 folds down low, and then those 7 folds which represent the red and white stripes now transition into the blue field. So as you can see here, we're going to come out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is approximately 0.76% of the height of the flag, which is really accurate when we're measuring a flag. So as you can see, I went back and forth. Now one detail I do want to point out. You'll see these little incisions I made. Because we're going from such a high transition to low, I made a cut in the hose, and this will all get hidden in the painting. And then the screw head is actually inside that first layer of the lining. And so on occasion you'll see a slight cut, and that's how I pin these down. Now again, all of this is glued and screwed like everything. Now once I got to the last transition, the 10th one, you'll see that I came down to this one. And here's another bit of a different fold I want to point out. What it is I took the hose all the way to the end, I folded it back, and then I did my 90-degree fold, and out I went again. And started on the top folds for the top of the flag for the banners and stripes. As you can see, we just continued on and did everything normal. Going back and forth, doing our normal folds on the ends. Now everyone in the fire service knows or have heard of a Dutchman. So this took 3 pieces of hose, and I started measuring it, and you can just work backwards so that the end of the nozzle, or the male end, ends up here. You can just arbitrarily throw a couple Dutchmen in here as you see fit. Now these were actually manufactured. I cut down low, and this will all get hidden in the painting, and I've essentially used these Dutchmen to splice in hose. So anytime you need to splice in hose, you just can do this configuration. Again, these are glued and screwed in place with some incisions done at the end of them. And as you see, all of it just turned out nice. Another thing I wanted to quickly point out as well is that you'll notice everything is laying really flat, and that's because I used a rubber mallet. And once I made these folds, I beat these folds down into place. And I would recommend you do the same thing. It gives a real nice clean appearance when you're doing these folds. Just take that rubber mallet and knock these down so that they're nice and true. Another feature I want to point out, because I've had some experiences in the past that didn't turn out so well. One thing is that the hose that you use isn't always necessarily completely true. So even though you measure it out, sometimes the width of the hose can be a little off. I had one experience where I measured it, and when I got to the very end, the last length of hose wouldn't fit in the box. So as you can see on this one, I cheated it a little wide, knowing that I could fur back into the hose, and you'll see that when I do my top piece, how we're going to hide that. So let's cut to that right now. Now we're at that piece that I was talking to you about furring back into the hose. We're going to cut down and look at this section right here. You'll notice that the hose and the edge of the frame was a little bit wide in this area. Again, because I didn't want to cut it too close and make sure that I was off, all I did was built this little piece, cut on a 45, and I glued it into place and stained it. And that just makes up that little edge right there. It was about 1.5 inches that was too wide. But here's how we're going to cover it. As I go down to the end, I'm going to show you real quick. When I go to put my final piece of trim on top, you'll see how I'm going to hide this whole area. Okay? And so I'm just using this as an example. So this 3.5-inch red oak that runs on the top is just going to get glued in place. And of course, as I put this edge in here, it'll all trim out like this. So as you can see, you can even throw a biscuit joint in here if you'd like. If not, simply glue it in place, putty it if it's a little off, and sand it before you stain it. So what I anticipate, when I come out to paint, it should be all stained and primed. I want to show you the primer that we're going to use as well. So to get the piece prepped, you just go to the store and get either this primer or a comparable product that'll work good on canvas. You could even go to an art store and get a product called gesso, and that would go on this canvas very good. So make sure that you get down into areas like here on the OSB and basically up to the trim itself. Don't worry that you're going to get too sloppy, but try to keep it as controlled as you can. So the expectation when I show up is that the entire flag will be primed, and everything will be stained and ready to go. And I'm going to show you some other products that we'll need on hand when I arrive at your fire department. When I arrive out to the fire department to paint the piece, these are 3 cans of 1 quart paint that we'll need and 1 spray can. The spray can is a gloss white, and if you do this product that we're using right here, it should cover the product very well. And then we're going to need, obviously for the flag, a quart of red, a quart of white, and a quart of blue. Now I've selected colors that are available in a local hardware store. You can just match the colors as close as you can to the American flag. All right, folks, well, there you go. I'm just very excited. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope that when you build your flag, it turns out just as nice as this one did. Towards the end of the videos, as you continue on my website, you'll actually see this hanging in our headquarters with a finished product, and that'll give you an idea of one of the potential ways that you could finish it as well. What I do want to encourage you to do is do the frame any way you want that's unique to your department. Once the hose is laid down, dial that frame in any way that's unique. And again, I'll come out, paint your flag, and we'll celebrate from that point forward. If during the process of while you're building and you get stuck or you have questions, my contact information is on the website. Please call me directly and I'll walk you right through the project and we'll get you squared away. So again, I'm Ken Walker. I'm really grateful to be involved with all of this, and I look forward to seeing you at your fire department. Included on the website is a printable layout instructional. And as you can see, it has all of the steps needed to mount the hose to the backboard. If you have any questions, print it out, refer to it, and if that doesn't do the trick, give me a call. I'll walk you through it.